People think heaven only pays attention to the big, flashy moments, the miracles, the disasters, the headlines. But sometimes it's the little thing you did, the choice no one else noticed, that shakes the walls up there. The kind of move no one expected from you, not even yourself. Maybe it was too bold, too reckless, too raw, or maybe it was the kind of strength no one believed you had. And when it happened, even heaven had to stop, turn its head, and say, "Did you see that?" Small actions can shake eternity, though most people laugh at that idea. They think the only things that matter are the grand gestures, the loud speeches, the explosions that make everyone turn their heads. But eternity doesn't move because of noise. It trembles when something quiet slips through the cracks. A decision so small it looks invisible to the world, yet heavy enough to tip the scales beyond what anyone could measure. It's not the fireworks that shock heaven. It's the match, the spark, the tiny flicker that no one expected you to strike. People underestimate the power of a single choice. They convince themselves it has to be monumental to matter, that unless the world applauds, it doesn't count. But heaven doesn't clap for performances. It listens for authenticity. That one moment you decide to tell the truth, when lying would have been easier. That 1 second you choose to keep going when giving up seemed safer. That quiet step you take when your legs are shaking and nobody's watching. Small, yes. Forgettable to some, maybe. But eternity doesn't forget. Eternity records it, plays it back, and ripples it forward in ways you'll never fully see. The beauty of small actions is that they don't wait for permission. You don't need a stage, you don't need a spotlight, you don't need a crowd. You just need a moment. And when you seize it, the universe leans in a little closer. Because the loud are predictable, the powerful are expected, but the weak, choosing strength in silence, that's a shock wave. That's what makes heaven blink. And isn't that the irony? The things you thought didn't matter, the things you brushed off as meaningless, those are the very things that shake eternity. The smile you gave when someone else was drowning in darkness. The apology you whispered, even though your pride was screaming at you not to. The hand you reached out when it would have been easier to look away. No one writes songs about those moments. No one carves them into stone, but heaven doesn't need statues to remember. Heaven remembers the weight behind them, the heart that fueled them, the cost you paid in silence. Eternity isn't shocked by the things the world praises. Power, money, glory, that's predictable. That's noise. But when someone overlooked, underestimated, counted out, chooses to rise in a way no one thought possible, that's when eternity stirs. Because it wasn't supposed to happen. The odds said no. The world said impossible. Yet somehow, you did it anyway. That's the kind of moment that rewrites the script. Small actions prove something bigger, that you're not powerless, not invisible, not trapped by the limits others placed on you. They prove you can tilt the scale with a single touch, shake the ground with a single word, split the silence with a single decision. And the moment you realize that, you become dangerous in a way that noise never could. because now you understand the weight of every second, every choice, every flicker of courage that sparks when no one else is looking. People laugh at the idea that heaven could be shocked by something small. But that's because they don't understand how eternity works. Eternity isn't counting the size of your steps, it's measuring the weight behind them. A small stone drops into water, and the ripples stretch further than your eyes can follow. That's what your small actions do. They don't end when you think they do. They move, they spread, they shake things you'll never see. And sometimes, those ripples reach all the way into eternity, hitting the walls hard enough that even heaven can't ignore the sound. So don't tell yourself the little things don't matter. Don't believe the lie that if the world doesn't notice, it's wasted. The world is blind. Heaven isn't. Eternity isn't. And sometimes the most shocking thing you'll ever do isn't the loudest move, but the smallest one. The one that slipped past everyone's attention, but still managed to make eternity tremble. The unexpected carries the most weight, doesn't it? People think life only shifts when they've planned every detail, when the stage is set, when everything goes exactly the way they imagined. But the truth is, the things that shake the ground aren't rehearsed. They come out of nowhere, raw, unscripted, and that's why they carry such force. The world yawns at the predictable. Heaven doesn't blink at the ordinary. But when you do something no one thought you had in you, that's when everything leans in a little closer. Because shock, real shock, is power. You see, expectations are cages. Everyone has a version of you built in their head, stitched together with your past mistakes, your habits, your failures. They think they know your limits. They think they can predict your moves before you even make them. And maybe, for a long time, you believed them. You lived in their box, played their part, stayed small enough not to rattle their picture of you. But the moment you step outside of that, the moment you break their script, the air shifts. Because the unexpected makes people realize they never really knew you at all. It doesn't have to be loud. That's the mistake people make. They think shocking means grand, dramatic, explosive. But sometimes the most unexpected move is quiet. The person who always ran finally standing still. The one who always bowed their head, finally raising it. The one everyone counted out, suddenly refusing to quit. The shift doesn't have to scream. It just has to defy expectation. And when it does, the weight of it crushes through every assumption stacked against you. And heaven notices that. Heaven doesn't flinch at predictable patterns. It's seen them all before. But when someone breaks their chains, when someone steps out of a story that was supposed to define them forever, it shakes something higher. Because the unexpected proves there's more in you than anyone accounted for. It proves you're not just a product of your scars, not just a reflection of your past, not just another predictable shadow walking in circles. The unexpected carries weight because it demands recognition. People can ignore the ordinary. You've seen it, they scroll past it, shrug it off, dismiss it. But when you shatter the mold, they can't look away. They have to pause. They have to rethink everything they thought they knew. And whether they admit it or not, that pause is power. Because for the first time, you're not living inside their story. You're forcing them to face yours. And maybe the wildest part is that even you don't see it coming. Sometimes the most unexpected move is the one you make yourself. The day you thought you'd fall apart, but chose to rise instead. The night you thought the darkness had you cornered, but you decided to push back. That moment when everything in you screamed, quit, and you whispered, no. That's not just unexpected to them. It's unexpected to you. And that's why it carries weight. Because it proves you're bigger than even your own doubts. Shock is a language all on its own. It doesn't need explanations. It doesn't beg for belief. It just happens, and when it happens, it leaves a mark. That's why the unexpected is so powerful. It doesn't argue, it doesn't ask for approval. It just rewrites reality in front of everyone watching. And reality rewritten, even for a moment, has enough force to echo into eternity. The world underestimates the power of surprise. It thinks everything is supposed to go according to plan. But eternity knows better. Eternity knows it's the cracks in the script, the unscripted choices, the shock waves no one predicted, that carry the most weight. Because the expected makes people comfortable, but the unexpected makes even heaven stand still. Strength reveals itself in hidden moments, the ones nobody bothers to watch. People think strength is all about the stage, the spotlight, the roar of applause. They think it's the warrior in battle, the speech that shakes the room, the hero standing tall when everyone's watching. But real strength, it doesn't announce itself. It doesn't beg for attention. It shows up in silence, when no one's clapping, when no one even knows you're fighting. And that's why it matters so much. Because strength without witnesses is the purest form of it. Think about the nights when you couldn't sleep, when your mind was tearing you apart, when every thought screamed at you to quit, and still you didn't. No one wrote a poem about that. No one posted your picture online. But that was strength. Or the mornings when you dragged yourself out of bed with a heart so heavy it felt like chains. And still you moved. No fireworks, no spotlight, but heaven noticed. Because strength isn't in the big performances. It's in the quiet survival. People get it backwards. They assume weakness is hidden and strength is loud. But it's the other way around. Weakness loves an audience. It cries for attention. It begs to be noticed. It wants pity, validation, comfort. Strength hides because it doesn't need recognition. It knows what it is, even if nobody else does. And that's why heaven is shocked when you reveal it. Because you carried it so long in silence, hidden under pain, tucked away where no one could see, and then suddenly there it is. Raw, undeniable, impossible to ignore. Strength doesn't look the way people expect it to. Sometimes it's choosing not to fight back when you easily could. Sometimes it's walking away when staying would have been easier. Sometimes it's forgiving when hate would have been the natural choice. Those aren't the moments people write stories about, but they're the ones that shake eternity. Because strength isn't always a shout. It's often a whisper. And whispers have a way of echoing further than screams. And here's the cruel joke. The people around you will probably never understand the weight of your hidden strength. They'll never know how many nights you held yourself together when you were breaking inside. They'll never see the battles you fought behind closed doors. To them, it'll just look like nothing happened. But heaven knows better. Heaven saw the war behind your smile, the weight behind your silence, the fight behind every step you took when you wanted to collapse. That's why it's shocked. Because you made a move no one expected you could make. Strength in hidden moments is proof that you don't need validation to be real. You don't need an audience to matter. You don't need applause to make it count. The fact that you endured, that you stood, that you chose something harder than surrender, that's enough. That's everything. And the ripple of that choice doesn't just stay in the shadows where you made it. It spreads. It shifts things. It reaches places you'll never see. And maybe that's why hidden strength is the most terrifying kind, because it's unpredictable. No one saw it coming. No one believed you had it. Not even you. But the moment it showed, it rewrote everything. Because if you could do that when no one was watching, what else are you capable of when the time comes? That's what shocks heaven. That's what shakes eternity. The realization that the quietest soul, the one dismissed, overlooked, forgotten, carried a strength bigger than anyone dared to imagine. Heaven notices what the world ignores. And that's the part that drives people crazy. Because the world only sees what glitters, what makes noise, what can be packaged and sold. The world claps for the loudest voice, the biggest display, the most polished mask. But the things that actually matter, the things that actually shift the ground beneath your feet, those slip right under the radar. And while the world scrolls past, distracted by cheap performances, something sacred takes note of the smallest detail, a quiet act, a hidden choice, a moment no one would ever bother to record. Think about it. The world isn't going to stop to admire the way you forgave someone who didn't deserve it. No one's writing headlines about the time you stayed soft when you could have gone hard, or the moment you gave when you had almost nothing left for yourself. People don't clap for humility. They don't cheer for restraint. They don't hand out trophies for patience or kindness, or the way you held your tongue when you wanted to destroy someone with the truth. But heaven does. Heaven watches, and heaven takes it seriously, because those are the moments that reveal who you really are. The world is obsessed with masks, with performance, with the show. It trains you to believe that unless people notice, it doesn't count. Unless it's seen, it's wasted. Unless someone praises it, it wasn't worth it. And that's the biggest lie. Because the truest things are the ones no one notices. The strongest love is the one that gives in silence. The deepest faith is the one that endures without applause. The greatest strength is the one that doesn't need to prove itself to anyone. That's why heaven notices. It's not distracted like the world is. It isn't fooled by masks, by stage lights, by applause. It sees the raw part of you that everyone else overlooks. You've had moments like that, haven't you? The kind no one will ever know about. The day you cried alone and still got up like nothing was wrong. The time you gave your last coin, not because anyone was watching, but because something in you couldn't walk away. The fight you carried inside, silent, unspoken, invisible to every single person around you. And still, you didn't fold. The world ignored it. But not everything does. Because those hidden acts, they weigh more than gold in places the world doesn't control. And it's almost funny, isn't it? How the world thinks it's keeping score with followers, likes, and recognition, when the real score is kept somewhere else entirely. Somewhere the numbers don't mean anything, but the intention behind your smallest action means everything. A glass of water given in kindness weighs more than 1,000,000 claps from a crowd. A choice to stand firm when no one sees shakes more than 1,000 empty speeches. And that's why heaven notices what the world ignores. It knows where the real weight is. The truth is, you can waste your whole life chasing recognition and still end up empty. But the second you do something pure, something unseen, something real, you've already done more than the world could ever reward you for. Because those little ignored acts, they echo, they ripple, they create shifts you can't see yet. They make noise in places the world can't hear. And sometimes, just sometimes, those tiny, invisible moments are what shock the skies themselves. That's why it matters. That's why heaven notices. Because while the world claps for the loud, it misses the quiet revolution happening in the unseen. And that revolution always starts small, always starts ignored, always starts in silence. Bold choices echo louder than words, and that's what unsettles people the most. Anyone can talk. Anyone can promise, threaten, swear, or scream. Words are cheap. They're easy. They're disposable. People throw them around like candy and then expect them to mean something. But the moment you make a move, a real move, something that carries weight and risk, that's when everything changes. That's when the air shifts. That's when people who never cared suddenly can't stop watching. See, words are safe. They let people sound brave without ever lifting a finger. They let someone play strong without ever stepping into the fire. But choices demand something from you. They demand blood, sacrifice, skin in the game. They leave marks. They don't vanish once spoken. They stick, they cut, they ripple outward in ways you can't take back. That's why they're louder. Because once you choose, there's no pretending. The mask slips. The truth comes out. Think about the last bold move you made. Maybe it was leaving when you were expected to stay. Maybe it was speaking when silence would have been easier. Maybe it was walking away from everything familiar, or forgiving someone who didn't deserve it. It doesn't matter what it was. What matters is the shockwave it sent. People didn't forget. They might not admit it, but it rattled them. Because deep down, everyone knows words don't matter until they're backed by action. And that's why bold choices scare people. Because they can't be erased. They can't be undone with an apology or covered up with excuses. Once you act, it's real. And real things carry power. A single bold choice can redefine who you are in someone's eyes forever. It can rewrite the story they thought they knew about you. It can shake the image they built of you in their head, and that terrifies them, because it forces them to confront the fact that you're not trapped in the version of you they created. The world remembers bold choices long after it forgets bold words. Look back through history. Nobody quotes the endless speeches of cowards, but they remember the steps of those who dared to move. It's the risks that echo, the sacrifices, the actions that seemed insane in the moment, but carved new paths that no one thought possible. That's what lasts. That's what gets written in the walls of time. And here's the twist. The boldest choices are usually the ones that look the smallest at first. Telling the truth when it could cost you everything. Standing up alone when the crowd is moving the other way. Refusing to betray yourself when compromise would have been easier. Those don't look dramatic on the outside, but they shake things in ways words never could. Because the echo of a bold choice doesn't stop with you. It spreads into the people watching, the ones silently wondering if they could ever do the same. And the echo never dies quickly. It lingers. It makes people rethink, reevaluate, replay that moment over and over in their heads. They may forget the exact words you said, but they'll never forget the day you chose to act. They'll never forget the moment you broke the script. They'll never forget the sound of the echo that followed you long after. That's why bold choices matter more than speeches. That's why they're louder than anything you could ever say. Because when you choose, you carve something permanent into the world. You write your name into the story without needing ink. And that's why bold choices echo. They don't just exist in the moment. They live on, shaping everything that comes after.